after my oldest son, Reed, when he went out on his own, he got married, moved off, and he had a disagreement with his mom, my wife, and it kind of escalated. And it got to the point where I was like, he was kind of like wanting to burn the bridge here. You know, we all have problems. Look, it was over nothing really big, but it just, my wife and his mom were just at an impasse about whatever. And he was living in Nashville. And I thought back to my relationship with my dad in that moment. And I just thought, you know what? I'm fixing to drive up there. So I got my truck. I didn't call him and tell him I was coming. But I drove 8 hours, and I knocked on his door. And he answered the door, and he was like, Dad, what are you doing here? And I said, whatever's going on with your mom and whatever I've ever done in my life, I said, I'm sure I've made some mistakes in raising you. There's nothing worth losing our relationship.
That's right.
We're going to be a part of God's forever family. And you know what I realized? We then talked. Look, we cried, we talked, we got into the issue, which seemed insignificant. You know what I realized in that moment? It didn't matter what I said.
Yeah.
The fact that I got in my truck and drove 8 hours
right.
and said, you know what, we're fixing to have a come to Jesus meeting. Because it made me reflect back on all my kids. I've had so many come to Jesus meetings with my kids since they were old enough to understand the English language that it was just a different set of circumstances that I had with my dad. We're going to have, this is going to be a part of your life.
Right.
And so you're going to have to realize we're all sinners. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all got to plead to the blood of Jesus. And that has to trickle down to every one of your relationships at some point.
That's right. So good. We're vessels, man, right? We've received grace. We give grace.
That's right.
We've been loved. In turn, we love. And I love what you modeled for your son. You know, I just think about God's pursuit of us and how God didn't wait on us to figure it out and to come to him because we wouldn't have.
We wouldn't have come.
Dead in sin.
That's right.
But the fact that you got in your truck and drove straight hours, I think it's just a beautiful picture of how the Father pursues us. And I think about all of us dads in the room, the opportunity we have each and every day to model for our sons and daughters what the love of God looks like.